Duckfeed.com/Duckfeed.tv. Out! For those fireballs, Heartbeat City is taking your call, suffering. Duckfeed.tv. And now, from WDFD The Duck, it's Heartbeat City with Cozy Snugglefield. 'Cause somebody out there feels lonely, and we're here to help. Welcome to Heartbeat City. I'm Cozy Snugglefield, your host, and on this very, very clear, beautiful night here in Heartbeat City, we are taking your messages, healing your hearts. I'm joined again by Jenni Polodna. Jenni Polodna is a games developer, a podcaster on Clash of the Titans, and you can find her work on Twitter at HorseWizard. Jenni, how are you?
I'm doing great, Cozy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, warm and snug in the studio here. How was your trip up to the studio?
Oh, so a funny thing happened. I got the same Lyft driver as last time.
That is very unusual. We have quite a few Lyft drivers here.
Yeah. This particular one is really into Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, hopefully he was a 10 out of 10.
I don't get it, but let's press forward.
That is, of course, the name of the first album by Seattle-based rock and roll band Pearl Jam.
I hate Pearl Jam.
Contemporaries with Nirvana and Alice in Chains. Let's go ahead and get started with our first message here.
Okay.
Hey folks, Benedict here. I pretty frequently go through periods of really varied amounts of social energy, like some weekends of just socializing all day and some weeks just being happy not speaking to anyone. I'm pretty sure that's not too uncommon. What are your thoughts on handling that in a relationship? Do you think it's healthier to try and push through and spend time with your partner if you don't really feel like it, or ask for some time to yourself? Thanks.
So, somebody who does not always feel like socializing, wondering about how to navigate that within the bounds of a relationship. Jenni, do you have any thoughts on this?
I do have some thoughts on this. So I'm about halfway on the line between introvert and extrovert. And have dated an extreme introvert. And that caused a lot of problems, actually. So I would say if you're not already in a relationship with someone and you're trying to navigate this, I would say to attempt to hook up with somebody who's at about your level. And even then it's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the unsung or unthought of factors in terms of compatibility, I think. It doesn't mean that it's a death knell if you're incompatible with this, but it is more important than I think most people consider. Something that I've experienced when I've gone on dating sites or what have you is there are a lot of people who camp all of the time, who are always camping or always doing yoga on the side of mountains.
That sounds like hell to me.
It sounds like hell to me as well. And that ends up being something that is a strong indicator of an incompatibility. Just in terms of not wanting to do the same things, not wanting to share the same things. This can be very similar, if you want to stay in quite a bit. One of the things that's interesting about the question, though, is that the person isn't always an extreme introvert. It feels like they kind of go back and forth. And that seeking 100% compatibility for that, I think, won't happen. You're never going to be on the same page as a partner all the time.
I think in this case you could probably get away with having an introverted partner and very extroverted friends.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Knowing being able to kind of take those needs and diffuse them among the people around you. Absolutely. That's great advice.
So that's an important thing to mention just in general. Like, no romantic partner is going to satisfy 100% of your needs all the time.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And some people will, that is one of the reasons why people are polyamorous. It's also something but it doesn't mean you have to be either. It can also be something where you get that from friends, and those can be friends in any space as well. That can be online. That can be in person, depending on what those needs are. As far as pushing through, I think that you do have kind of a responsibility to meet people halfway on things.
So this one's complicated because definitely the other person has needs, and not that it's your responsibility to meet their needs, but it's good. It's good if you try to compromise.
It's not a responsibility to meet their needs all the time, but I think from time to time you can be in a relationship and expect your partner to accompany you to important weddings.
Right.
Hey, this is, if it's just every weekend and it's, going out to the bars and you don't want to do that, you can do that every once in a while. And I think you're okay. But, generally I feel like it's a good idea not to do anything you don't want to do, but you can't play that card all the time. As far as socializing.
I would say try to make the time that you do spend together more special than just going out to the bars, and make sure that you're completely present while you're spending time with this person if you're not going to be spending time together all the time.
Or time out specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. You can't, it is an easy trap to fall into where you might go out with this person and you think, okay, I did my part, I'm out. And then kind of be a pouty rain cloud the whole time. Don't do that.
No.
You have to participate in good faith. So I guess the answer to the direct question in the message is, sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to push through that and just do that. And sometimes vice versa as well. If you have a partner who is not, if you really are not feeling it and you say, hey, I cannot stomach the idea of going out to the bars. I really just want to hang out at home and rent a movie. I'd love if you hung out with me. They need to sometimes.
And then it's on them to be cool about it.
Yep, absolutely. This just needs to be equitable. Sometimes they have to meet you there as well.
Yeah. And the thing is, the more satisfied that they are in general, like if they feel like they have spent quality time with you, they're probably going to be more okay with letting you fart off and do whatever introvert thing you want to do. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, if they don't feel like it is a symbolic absence when you're gone, if they feel like it just, and also when they want you, to hang out too, a way to frame this to yourself that might make pushing through that easier is just, hey, this person just wants to hang out with me. That's
nice.
That's a nice thing. This is a good thing. So maybe you're not necessarily feeling it at the moment, but if you're going to push through anyway, something that maybe will stop you from becoming a rain cloud when you get out is just, this is my partner value and my company. That's good.
I just got out of a 3-year relationship, and and a couple of my friends are pressuring me to date again. When should I date again? Will I know? Should I push myself to try it again? What should I do? Thanks, guys.
So the perennial question of when to start dating again after a relationship. This is and is there a right way? Should you push yourself for this? Should his friends be pushing him? And will you inherently know when it's time?
So my hot take on this one, I don't know if you will know when it's time, but I don't feel like there's anything to be gained if you're pretty sure that you're not ready to date. I don't think there's anything to be gained by dating. Because for one thing, you have to involve another person in your, like, semi-formed emotional rebound mess.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the big one, is that when you go out there and you're dating and you're messing around in affairs of the heart, you have a responsibility to other people, and you have a responsibility. No one is. A lot of us are hot messes of various stripes, but you have a responsibility to be at least a little bit, have a little bit of self-knowledge and be a little bit put together, and be somebody who can be dated, who should be dated, who somebody would want to date. You have a little bit of a responsibility to that. The other side of that argument is that as much as this is the wrong thing to do, and I don't argue for this, but I do think that it can help get you over something, because there's something that happens to me after relationships is that there's a brief maudlin period of like, what if that was the one? And then then I go out and even if I have a short term, kind of fling, that goes away. And then I realize like, no, there's no the one, there's plenty of fish, et cetera, et cetera. And I think you can do that ethically. It's just tricky because you just have to be very upfront.
Yeah, be super honest about where you're at. And also on guard for if the other person doesn't appreciate where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe going to push for more than you're ready to do.
Yes. Yeah. So and that it seems like the friends and perhaps in this scenario are the ones who are saying like, hey, go out and do a bunch of makeouts. That's going to make you feel better and help you move on. They're not wrong. It's just more complicated than that. So you need to be a lot of checking in about how you feel. To your point earlier, though, maybe you won't actually know. I don't think that perfect self-knowledge really exists. I think that most people are kind of mysteries to themselves, at least some of the time.
Yeah, and there is a very real possibility that it'll be years down the road and you're just fearful and telling yourself that you're not ready to date when actually you could be dating. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So watch out for that one too.
Yeah, absolutely watch out for that one. And I guess like err on the side of being good to other people, being a good perspective partner, being somebody out there who's dating responsibly and is being fair and considerate to other people's times and emotions. So if you're not totally sure, you won't know for sure, but I would err on the side of caution with it if you feel like you're not ready to date. Because one of the things, we talk about a lot on the show, we talked about it in the last episode as well. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where you're filling a position.
No.
And that can be very dangerous after a long-term relationship. This person, I've always had this couch and I just need a couch. I can't, the couch is gone, but I need something to sit on. And nobody wants to be treated that way.
Nope.
And if there's any thought of you rekindling that relationship, nobody wants to be treated like a safety school. If I can't get what I really want, I will date you. No one wants to be treated that way. Don't treat anyone that way. It's tricky. There's not a right answer to it. It's a reason why this is a question that comes up a lot, because there are formulas and stuff you'll find in things like Cosmo or what have you. People like take the time of your relationship and divide it by 2 and then carry the cosine. Do things like that. And none of that makes sense. That's not.
No. And it's also highly individual.
Yeah. It's 100% individual. Yeah. So you won't necessarily know, but I think you'll have an inkling. You won't know 100%, I guess is the way I'd put it. You might have an inkling. And to your friends who are trying to pressure you to do it, they probably have your best interest in mind, even if it is a little bit misguided.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. Like, they're probably thinking you're single and you're sad, and if you were out having fun dating, you probably wouldn't feel sad.
Yeah. Which is not, you could go out and be dating and not have fun. Because you're sad.
Oh, absolutely.
It is not always a fun thing. They could be totally wrong. They could also just be wanting you to get rid of that, there goes my shot, feeling like there was my chance. Mm-hmm. and going out and doing some dating is good for that. So their hearts may be in the right place. You can also, something that I like to think, and this is general advice, is that going on a couple of dates, and this is specifically for men, have this privilege. This is not necessarily true of women, but like men usually have very little to lose in going on a date. Like if one of your friends in this situation wanted to set you up, just going and treating it like a low pressure, like I'm just going to go meet a person, is not a bad idea either. And then maybe you'll surprise yourself and you'll have a better idea of where you're at. You know, you'll sit down and you'll be like, you know what, I could actually date this person. Or you could sit down and be like, well, this person isn't like Jennifer, you know, and not be able to do it. Or this person, this doesn't feel right. You know, and that can help you do kind of a gut check. And again, I recognize that as kind of one-sided advice because, you know, there's a lot less stakes for a guy to go out and just kind of meet somebody who they don't know very well. You know, there are additional precautions that a woman has to take in that situation.
Hey guys, Red here. What do I do when my significant other wants to put me in charge, but only when I agree with her? For example, if they were trying to figure out where we're going to eat for dinner, and she says it's up to me. So I suggest one place, and she immediately rejects it. So I offer another place, and that one gets shot down too, with no counter offers, of course. Yet she won't make a decision because, quote unquote, it's up to me. And of course, when something goes wrong, I'm the one to blame because I'm the one who was forced to make a decision. So what should I do? And then I don't know how you want to do this, but I figured I would offer, yeah, okay, well, right. That way you can cut those in whenever you want. Anyway, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Yeah, what to do in this kind of situation? Your partner
Wow.
is, yeah.
So I spent some time thinking about this one, and a thing that I didn't initially pick up on that later kind of hit me as a shower thought was how often do you go to a restaurant with somebody and something goes wrong in a way that it is the fault of the person who chose the restaurant?
Yes. Or that it goes wrong to the degree that fault needs to be assigned.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I imagined when I read this, I was thinking about they delivered a live lobster instead of a cooked one, and it like snipped onto somebody's ear, and they were trying to get it off and knocked over a maitre d' who fell on a mariachi band and something like that.
And got a trombone in his eyeball.
I was really thinking like absolute disaster.
Yeah,
and it's kind
of. It sounds like this happens often. To them.
I think so. There's two things that I think are probably more likely than the trombone disaster scenario. However, less fun is and it's kind of tricky because we don't know. We don't have enough information to know which one of these two it is. But one that's entirely internal. Mm-hmm. The restaurant is just kind of a C+ restaurant, and the person who left the message is feeling like taking a lot of that blame on themselves, or their partner is literally blaming them for that. You know, right. It is something like, well, you picked, like, hey, that wasn't so good. Well, you picked the place, you know, or he's, you know, they're reading between the lines and thinking, God, that place wasn't very good, and that's all my fault. And it's tricky because those are very different scenarios.
And then there's a whole spectrum of plausibly deniable passive aggression, or on the other side, reading innocent things that someone says as plausibly deniable passive aggressiveness. Absolutely,
yeah. So it's pretty difficult to figure out exactly what's going on here. So I think that as opposed to necessarily figuring that out, because we can't. There are a couple of things this made me think of that I think are worth talking about. One is recognizing on both parties the labor of making decisions, which in a relationship is a thing. It doesn't sound like a thing. It doesn't sound like picking a restaurant should be anything.
It is absolutely a thing.
It is absolutely a thing. Just, and that is it's a labor that needs to be fairly divided in a way. Hey, I understand if you just like, I can pick the place if you're just not up for making a decision right now, or, hey, I chose last time. I just need you to pick the place because I just don't have it in me. Like, so don't for the person who's writing in, don't minimize that, the stress, because it's a real thing.
Yeah, especially if you're getting if all of your ideas are being shot down and you're getting no help. Yes.
That is incredibly frustrating.
It really is.
Getting notes and not having, unhelpful feedback like that. I think that as far as actual advice, because we don't know if there's passive aggressiveness going on here, or if there's, I think this is just something that needs to be codified and turned into text, instead of subtext. Like, hey, how about, I will suggest places, but if you don't like it, you have to suggest a place. And that's a rule. It becomes or I will name 3 places and you can pick one of them.
Yes, that's a perfect one, I think.
Just what are those 3? There's a, down there,
there's a crime or something.
Yeah, some kind
crime
of
of the heart.
Yeah, some kind of love crime going on down there. But yeah, something making this recognizing this as an actual friction point and then setting up a system around it, I think is good advice.
I think it's definitely a thing that I would communicate about in a relationship. Say like, hey, when we have these decision issues, it makes me feel bad. Mm-hmm. Can you help me brainstorm a way that we can make these decisions and both of us are happy?
Absolutely. And also taking some things that seem like they should be unsaid and saying them are really good. Mm-hmm. Like, on behalf of the partner in the situation, so I recently went on a date and went to a restaurant that the person I went on a date with chose. And it was a real C+ restaurant. And the restaurants I had suggested got shot down in favor of this restaurant that turned out not to be very good.
So you broke up immediately?
I immediately, and I wrote into Heartbeat City 2, the version of this that I write into. No, I said, and the person I went on a date with, you could tell that there were some of these complex feelings that come along with this unexpectedly fraught issue. And I just, said like, because we, she didn't really like the food and I didn't really like it. And I, just said like, yeah, and she'd be like, oh, you picked the next one. I picked a real dud. But with, not in a jokey way, like in kind of a serious way. And I just like, oh, it doesn't matter. We didn't know. We both went to a restaurant we'd never been to before.
Yeah.
Like it's, it doesn't just deflating a situation by acknowledging that nobody is actually at fault because we didn't have a lobster disaster. Like a lot of times a bad restaurant is just kind of meh.
Speaking of lobster disasters, I chose the movie The Lobster as a date movie.
Oh, that's a rough one.
Time. It was very, very bad.
It's that is about as bad as it can get. I had a friend in just after high school who went to go see Requiem for a Dream on a date, which I think is maybe the all-time worst.
Oh, that is very bad.
I also once went on a date where I was with there had been some kind of pre-talk about maybe kind of casually hooking up. And then the movie we went and saw was John Wick 2, which is a fun movie, but it was just a thing where it's like, oh, I don't know that I'm in the mood after seeing quite that many people's heads exploded.
Yeah.
Like there's like a 250 body count in that movie. Like maybe not, that didn't quite put me in the mood. The Lobster is real up there though, as real difficult movies for that. That is also a lobster disaster. The sequel to the Lobster. But just making sure that everyone understands the stakes of this, and that again, that's text. That's perennial advice on the show. Like make things text subtext is overrated.
Yep.
And come up with a system, because it's obviously a friction point, and don't belittle yourself. Like, it is okay that this is a friction point. This is a common friction point. This is real. And then you can also, through kind of negotiating that, you can find out if it is the worst case interpretation of this, which is that it is passive aggressive, or it is like a power play. You know, we can't tell that from where we're at, but maybe the person who left the message is unsure and saying like, hey, let's come up with a system. And if the person's like, no, I like the way that we do it now. And then you say, but the way that we do it now actually like is really rough on me, and I don't like it because of X, Y, and Z. And they still kind of insist. Then that actually does like shine a light on what is possibly a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, good luck. It is tricky, and it's something that I think that a lot of people have had to deal with in some way, shape, or form. Do you have a specific method? Do you do the pick 3?
We don't do the pick 3, and honestly, this is an area that we could stand to improve on. Yeah. Usually, yeah. We're the kind of people who only eat at 3 restaurants anymore.
So pick 3 is very easy.
Yeah.
The 3 are already picked. Yeah, I get that as well. And it's I haven't had a system like this for a while, but I have gotten to the point kind of in a micro level where I will get, because I will usually take on choosing for the person. Like, I always ask, if they have something in mind, but if they don't, and I'll just say, I can choose if you want. And they usually say yes, because, they don't want to. And I'm just lucky enough to live in a city with 1 billion good restaurants, Heartbeat City. So there's it's very easy to go down a list and find something that both people like.
Yeah.
Narrowing, having one person pick the genre of food is a surprisingly good way of doing it too. Like, just saying like, what do you feel like? Like, I don't know. Well, how does Chinese or Thai, how does Thai feel? And if they're like, yeah, Thai, and then you pick the place within that sphere, and then there's some shared responsibility. So, even though that the responsibility is very minor, like, at least it's diffused.
You're doing this together. Mm-hmm. The issue that we run into a lot is holdover from trying to remember that the person you're dating now is not your ex.
Yes.
Yeah. What often happens is I will say, I feel like tacos. And my partner will say, I'm feeling more like sushi. How about sushi? And I'll say, oh, actually, yeah, I would prefer sushi to tacos now that I'm thinking about it. And then he'll say, or we can do tacos. Let's go to this particular taco place. And I'll say, no, but I want sushi now. And he'll say, let's do tacos.
Yeah.
And then it's a thing.
Yeah. That's it sounds like there are elements of both of you guys being too courteous to each other almost.
Mm-hmm. Like, it's terrible.
Just two people holding the door for each other perpetually. So I guess that's another factor of this too, like, just in general terms of like the labor of decision making, is that a decision has to be made, so having somebody who does that, like, can save you a lot of, no, but you go ahead.
Yeah. And depending on your particular relationship, like, maybe you're lucky and one of you always feels like making the decision and the other one never feels like making the decision. Yeah. But
text, make that discussed. You don't want to have that be a thing where you think that your partner is happy with you making the decisions and they're secretly resenting you for doing it all the time.
And then 25 years later, it finally comes out that they've hated all of your restaurant choices.
I've never liked tacos. So you definitely don't want that.
No.
So, well, that's about all the time we have tonight on Heartbeat City. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more of your messages, calls, and letters. I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and specifically I'd like to thank our guest, Jenni Polodna. Jenni, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Hopefully you make it back, leave the studio the same way. If you get that same Lyft driver, definitely write in.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to hear "Don't Call Me Daughter" again.
So that's they might play that, but that's on the second album. And for everybody out there listening, in Heartbeat City, remember, keep on feeling. Heartbeat City is intended for advice only and is not responsible for the consequences of following any such advice. If you have questions for Heartbeat City, please call in at 502-69-HBEAT or write in at gary@Duckfeed.tv. Heartbeat City is produced by Boxer Kwan and Bryce Salad. Thank you.